Welcome back to Have Bronco Will Travel. So we're back in the Bronco today, and today we're trying to close out as many things as we can in the cab of the vehicle. So the things that we still have to do is we have to get the male side of the front seat belts out of the vehicle, especially the areas where it's bolted to the body. So we're going to work on that. Once that's done, then we're going to get in the back and we're going to pull the covers off of all of the body access points. We're going to get a vacuum in there and we're going to clean that out to the best of our abilities. Now the next thing that has to happen probably won't be in this video, but we also got to get a sander in here. So we're probably going to bring in a rotary sander for all of the stuff in here, probably use a Dremel for all of the surface rust in the back. We don't need to do that. We're eventually going to sand down the entire vehicle as part of body work and obviously before repainting. But this traps a lot of dirt, so every time we get in the vehicle, there's more dirt that's got to be cleaned up. In addition, this scale rust kind of chips off and creates a mess itself. So we want to get that out of there. And the next thing we're going to do after that is we're going to get into the engine bay and start cleaning that off. Now, one thing I probably should have mentioned, probably 3 or 4 videos ago, is this right here. So if you're doing any work like this, whether it's a Bronco or some other classic car, I highly recommend keeping a log of everything you're doing. So whenever I get in the vehicle and I remove a bolt, I record it here and I basically break out a micrometer. I record the size of the bolt, record where it came from, if it was rusty. But that way I have some memory to go back to and see, well, if I want to reinstall this, what do I have to reinstall it with? Now, obviously a reinstallation, I'll need the tech manuals so I know the torque levels, but I certainly recommend that you keep one of these. Now to get to this, we're first going to take off this upper part right here. And I've already done it on the passenger side. And this is held in place with 3 screws. And they're just Phillips head screws. So you can just use a drill, put it in reverse, and take this part out of there. Now once you get it out, there's going to be an internal assembly that's mounted in place with a T50 Torx bolt. So to take that out, I recommend that you use a breaker bar, which I have right here, before you go to the use of a ratchet wrench. These can be kind of welded in place. Welded is the wrong word, but these are going to be kind of fixed in place because they've been there for a while. They're heavily torqued, and in addition, if there's any rust, you're going to have to use that. Now, once we got that off, we're going to come down to the bottom right here. Now, you may notice this portion right here. It's a hard plastic top that you'll have to pop off with a screwdriver or something like that. And underneath here, you're going to see another T50 Torx bolt. So you got to get those out of here, and once we got that, then we're completed, since I've already got the passenger side. So let's go ahead and get to work. Alright, so I'd get this one out here, that screw, but it looks like it's already out. So let's go ahead and remove this part right here. Another thing too is when you're doing this, you want to make sure there's nothing in there, so you might want to tap on this in case any hornets or anything have gotten in there. But now that we have that out, we have a T50 Torx bolt right there. So let's go ahead and break out the breaker bar and see if we can start moving that in the right direction. Okay, this one's going to be a little tough. Okay, now once that's out, the next thing is to kind of gently pull on it. There we go. So it's got a mount there that kind of keeps it in there. So now that that's out, we're going to work on the next part. Okay, now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and see if we can pop this off right here. Sometimes it can take a little bit of force, but let's see what we can get in here with. Come on. There we go. Now, like I was worried about, it does appear that there is a fair amount of damage inside of here. In fact, I'm probably just going to have to drill that one out. It's The head of it I would have actually put the wrench into. Looks like it has come off. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of time to vacuum this out and see if I can at least pluck this off. But yeah, that's going to have to be drilled out. So wasn't expecting that. Okay, now we're going to start trying to move the body adapters. These are held in place with a 1/4 inch diameter hex flat to flat. So we'll just be using a hex wrench trying to get these out. This one over here is a little bit rusty, and so it is possible that it could just snap off, and we'll handle that when we get there. But I'll do this one. The one in the driver's side is already off, and I've already vacuumed that one out. So we'll get this one, the two rear ones, and then we'll talk about the center one, which is a little bit different. So let's get to it. Okay, so you can see what's inside of this access panel. I'm still not sure I understand what the point of this is, but I'm going to go ahead and research, find out. If anybody knows watching this video, please feel free to make a comment. But in the meantime, off camera, I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up. In addition, the parts to it like that, I'm going to get in the ultrasonic cleaner and get all the rust off these and get them looking like brand new. Okay, so I'm back in the body of the Bronco right now, and I just wanted to give an update on a few minor things I've discovered. So we showed the last clip taking out the access panel here, which is one of the larger access panels. And so it's been a bit of a mystery to me as to what this gives access to. Still don't have that totally solved. I'm going to have to get I'm going to have to get a hold of some of the schematics and tech specs for the Bronco, but looking at the underside, it looks like this provides access to a hollow cross-membral support that goes through here. So it's a square hollow support, almost like a corrugated structure. I think it's structural. I still don't know why there's an access port inside of here, but on the underside of that access port, throughout the length of it, there are some drilled, purposely engineered in holes. They're kind of elliptical, they're not circular. The downside is because those exist, it allows mud to get in through here. So there is caked in mud, probably 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick all the way along the cross member here. So I was going to take some pressurized water and try and clean that out, but I don't know the effects, and I think it's going to be really hard to get it all dried out. So I'm just going to leave that alone, and once I get to the point that we're going to bring in professionals to do body work, we'll handle it then. Still don't know the point of this. I'm suspecting this is probably an access point that was used during manufacturing, and from this they could actually put in rust protection, but I don't know why they wouldn't have just welded that closed after the fact versus leaving an access panel that could be used later on. So there's got to be a purpose to it. Don't understand what that is, but we'll find that out later on. Now the other thing too is the body mount access points. There's one here, there's one here, and there's two closer up to the front of the vehicle. There's also a hollow corrugated structural support, not structural, but a hollow tube that goes all the way up the length here. And just like this one, it has holes in the bottom. So there's a lot of debris in there. And I've been able to clear the debris out over these points here, but getting all that debris out is something I'm going to go ahead and leave to the professionals once we get to that point. When we do rebuild the vehicle, though, I am going to try and look at things like those types of issues and see if there's maybe better methods to re-engineer the vehicle so that we don't have to deal with this in the future. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move out, and we're going to start moving over to the door panels and getting those off the vehicle. Here we are right now at the passenger side door. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove these interior door panels on both the passenger and driver's side. Now these are typically held in place by a couple of things. So number one is there's usually Phillips head screws that are all around the periphery. However, in this case, those screws are gone. They were gone before I even bought the vehicle. So the only thing that we have to do now on this side of the vehicle is take this door crank out, which is held in with a Phillips head screw. Not screw, but yeah, screw. So we're going to go ahead and take that out right now, and once we're done with that, there's probably some adhesive holding it in. We're going to pull that off. We're going to do the same thing on the driver's side, and then we're going to do our best to clean these doors out to the best of our abilities. So let's get to it. Okay, here we are now. We've got this cleaned up. So I just took some soapy water to it first, and I took some Scotch-Brite to it and cleaned it pretty nicely. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of epoxy that's just not aged well. I tried to take a Dremel here to get some of it out, but it just went down to bare metal. So at some point, this entire thing will be sanded down anyways, so I'm not too worried about it. But I'm going to stop at this point and actually cleaned up quite nicely. So let's go ahead and take a look at the driver's side now. So here we are now at the driver's side. This entire side is going to be cleaned out just like the passenger side. I will say this little mounting bracket here appears to be in much better condition, but it is strange. There is a different type of epoxy, a white epoxy that I didn't see on the other side. So we're going to do the same thing. I'll probably shoot a time lapse of this one, but we're going to go ahead and clean this all off. Then we're going to start, well, I'm going to start by peeling all this off. Then I'm going to take just general cleaner to it, and then we'll bring Scotch-Brite to it. So let's get to it. Okay, so I've done as much as I can do, or at least want to do right now on this door. So I've cleaned it up about as nicely as it's going to get for now. So as a reminder, this is going to come off eventually. I'm going to sand everything down, tear this door apart, put new glass in. So it doesn't have to be perfect right now. I'm just trying to make it look, you know, not disgusting. A couple things I noticed is you can see where the epoxy was that kept the original door panel on. Does look like the previous owner did something aftermarket where they put this kind of white epoxy on there. I got that off as best I could, but it's not perfect. However, that said, it's as good as I need to get it for right now. So why don't we go ahead and move on to the next thing now. Next on my agenda was to start drilling out bolts that are completely rusted in place. So I have 3 bolts. I have 2 1/2-inch, actually 1/4-inch bolts that are holding down the passenger side front body mount access cover. So I need to get that out of there, and I also need to get out a T50 Torx bolt that's holding down the seatbelt on the front driver's side. However, those bolts are held in metal that itself needs to be cut out because the metal is very rusted in those locations. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to take a lot of time to drill out bolts when the metal itself is going to have to come out. So I've decided to put that off until we are at that state of the bodywork, which is going to be far in the future. So with that, I decided to move on to a few other things. I did go to the rear of the vehicle and I removed the 2 body mount access panels that are in good condition, which are these right here. I went ahead and put these in an ultrasonic cleaner, and I used a pretty soft fluid. I just essentially used dish soap, and I put it in at a temperature of about 45 Celsius for 30 minutes, and it got all the dirt, the grime, and a majority of the rust out of these. Now these still have to be sanded down even further, which I will do, but these are in pretty good condition. Now the downside about these is nobody manufactures body mount covers like this anymore. So you can go on some classic vehicle websites where they do sell versions of these, but they're completely flat and only have 1 screw. So for the purpose of preserving the form, fit, and functionality of things that are in the 1979 Bronco, I'm going to take these to a fab shop and see if I can have these 2 more of these manufactured to the same dimensions. Now what I will do is when I take the seat wireframes to a vendor to have them sandblasted and powder coated, I'm just going to put these in the queue with that as long as the 2 new versions of these that I will have made. Now the other thing that I did is I went to the center access location. I still don't know what it's for, and I pulled this out of it, which was the cover. So I pulled this out, I put this in an ultrasonic cleaner for about half an hour, and again I just used dish soap, but I did that because this has a very coarse surface and it had a lot of dirt that was ingrained in it that you're not going to get out without something like an ultrasonic cleaner. So I went ahead and did that and put a coating of Cerakote on this just to restore the plastic, and it did a pretty good job, so I'm quite happy with that. Now the last thing that I did is I took the handle and the bolts that were keeping this center location mounted in the vehicle, and I put this in Rust-Oleum for about 2 hours, and it did a really good job of getting all the rust off of it. So clearly this used to have a grip that was here that's mostly degraded and fallen off. I will try and replace that. For the time being, I'm just going to put this back in the vehicle kind of as a storage location for it. But I think with that, this wraps up just about everything that I am planning on doing in the body for quite some time. So the next thing I'm going to do is to close out to this video is I'm going to get inside the vehicle with a little bit more care than I did the first time, and I'm just going to clean it out to the best of my abilities, close it up, and we're not going to touch that for a while. So the next things you're going to see in a video is probably me starting to restore the seats, or at least tear them apart and get them prepped for sandblasting. We'll also get in the front of the vehicle underneath the hood and start cleaning out the engine bay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this video out, and I look forward to seeing you next time.